Martin Newman, globally renowned columnist, author, expert, advisor on all things consumer-related. He's just written a brand new book called The Power of Customer Experience. Let's throw him right in the deep end here. All right, Martin, in your mind, what has been the best invention on this planet so far?
Oh, my goodness, that's a very big question. I would probably say the internet. It obviously has its downsides.
Yes.
But there are lots of upsides for it. And I guess if you think of what we've just been through in the last year and a half, Fitz, when we've been stuck in our houses for big chunks of time, what would have happened if we didn't have the internet? Crikey, doesn't bear thinking about.
Yeah, I know the application and its use has come into question over the years, but I probably agree with that. Anyway, just moving back to you. You founded Customer Service Action, the Customer First Group. But tell us about this book. What have you touched upon here?
Sure. Well, my book is called The Power of Customer Experience, and the tagline or the byline is how to use customer centricity to drive sales and profitability. And the reason why I've written this book, it's my second book, is that, I've been talking about, I used to run online for the likes of Burberry and Harrods and Ted Baker and some amazing brands. And we always talked about being customer first and putting the customer at the heart of all we did. But then when I thought about it, and I thought, well, I don't see that written down anywhere. What does that actually look like, and how does it manifest itself in an experience end to end for customers, and how do we deliver it within the business? Which is why I've written books about it. And crazy as it sounds, but the majority of consumer-facing businesses today still think of customers as a cost rather than a benefit. So retailers and other consumer businesses are always talking about the cost to serve customers rather than what's the customer lifetime value? How do we make Fitz more loyal? How do we make sure we retain his business in the future? And what would we need to do in order to achieve that? So I've written a book about basically all the brands around the world that do that really well. Excuse me, and all the different ways that they do that,
right.
to try and bring it to life and provide a practical toolkit for other businesses to follow, basically.
How important is customer loyalty? I'll ask the question, and then I'll throw in a perfectly good example of customer loyalty.
Sure.
Couldn't give us stuff.
Sure, go for it.
Well,
how important is it? Do you want me to come in?
Well, because I'll tell you what, you can write about customer reaction and customer experience and customer service, all you can put 50 books, but if the actual retailer really couldn't care less, then everything is undone. And I'll tell you what, it's car insurance. There's absolutely no loyalty in going back to an insurer saying, look, no accidents. Is it going to go up this year? Yep, no problem, it will. Then you fight it, and suddenly, oh yeah, okay, we'll drop it by £30. Why couldn't you have told me that in the first phone call?
Yeah. No, I totally agree, and you've used a very good example there. As it happens, Aviva, I know, have been doing things to disrupt that market, and they've been looking at how they actually incentivize existing customers to come back, and rather than penalising them with the price of their policies going up year after year. But I totally agree. That's a great example. I think one of the issues is, I talked about the internet a minute ago, and I think that one of the things that a lot of consumer businesses haven't maybe fully grasped yet is that the power of the internet essentially has shifted the balance of power from the brand to you and I, to the consumer, basically, and to all the people listening today. If you go back to 1994, prior to that, that was when the first e-commerce transaction took place online. Apparently, it was I think it was a Pizza Hut mushroom and pepperoni pizza, the first transaction electronically in 1994. Prior to that, if you think about it as a consumer, where did you buy things from? You went to your local shops, your local high street, maybe an out-of-town shopping mall, and the odd brand had a catalogue, and that was kind of it. So you had limited choice, and therefore I think the power at that point really resided more with the retailer, whereas the internet changed all of that because of the proliferation of choice that we have now. If we don't like an experience with a brand, literally thousands of competitive products are just a click away, with a mouse on your laptop or your desktop or your phone for that matter. And that's fundamentally really put the customer in control of the experience. And therefore, I think it's become more important than ever for businesses to really think about, what do I need to do to at least attempt at creating some degree of loyalty. But I certainly agree with you that the majority of businesses don't put a lot of focus on that at the moment.
Could you've just taken me back to the days of my mother when getting the catalogue out. In fact, wasn't there a Newman's catalogue? Obviously not related to you, but I think there was.
Not related to me. Not related to me. No,
Are we as a consumer more savvy these days? I tell you what, I found myself in a shop a couple of weeks ago, and the price was wrong, and I said, "Oh no, that's an invitation to treat." And my wife went, "Ooh, who's been listening to the consumer experts then?" We are more savvy.
Oh, 100%. And we're not only more savvy, but again, we've got all that information, at our fingertips on our phone, which is how we're normally interacting with brands these days and looking for information about things we're interested in buying or comparing, competitive products, for example, on our phones. Often when we're out and about, and often when we're standing in the premises. So we're very savvy, we're very switched on, and we have, rightly so, I think, higher expectations of the level of service that we should be experiencing. And I think that, I think you often still get really good service when you go into a small independent retailer. I'm sure there are many of those that you frequent in and around Devon, and you go in and they know who you are, and okay, your personality, you're on the radio, but they know who you are, they know what you like, they know what you buy, they keep stuff aside for you, and it's a much more tactile, personal experience. And so it's always also sometimes a bit of a discovery, not knowing what they're going to have available in store that day. And I think that one of the tricks, if you like, that the bigger national chains could do is to start to behave a bit more like independent retailers. And I think they've lost all of that as they were opening more and more stores. The proposition was becoming quite homogenous. Consumers were getting a bit bored with it, going from one chain into another. And also they weren't empowering the people that are running those stores to deliver the type of experience that you get when you go into an independent retailer. So that's, I think, one thing they could do to certainly improve it for us in the future.
Well, you have got a job for life there, and I've just logged on to your customerserviceaction.com. There are literally hundreds of discussions going on there.
Indeed.
And I think it was Radio 4 I was listening to a few days ago, the training schools in China for people to sell online and Invention over the interweb, over the Zoom calls. I mean, it's such, everywhere you go, there is an advert, there is somebody trying to sell you something these days. And that's where you, the guardians of the customer experience, come in. You are going to be busy.
Well, let's hope so.
Simple as that. So the book is out now, yes?
It certainly is available on, obviously, Amazon and all good bookstores, may I add.
All good bookstores. And, of course, if you're not satisfied with the book, you can return it. No, joke, Martin. Okay. So it's published by?
It's published by Kogan Page, who are one of the leading publishers in the business books sector.
Okay. Yep. And what is your next project? What is your next main project that you're working on? What is the main worry at the moment when it comes to consumerism?
Well, again, I just think it's that lack of attempt to really drive loyalty and retain customers, in the future. Because at the end of the day, if you don't do that, if everyone's focusing on what we call the top of the funnel, acquiring new customers, bringing them in, and that's all we do, then I think it's going to end up being a race to the bottom. So we've got to look at ways of making them more loyal. And I think that loyalty these days is more than just a points-based program. So, for example, in the book, I talk about the importance of being a diverse business, catering for the needs of different communities. And, one of those communities I talk about is the disabled community, of which sometimes people have overt disabilities and sometimes they're hidden. Both my daughters have a hidden disability. One's deaf in one ear, one has Crohn's. One of them also was in a wheelchair for a number of years and thankfully isn't anymore. But generally speaking, consumer businesses do a really poor job when it comes to catering for that particular segment of customers. And you might be surprised to know there are 14 million disabled consumers in the UK who have some form of disability, whether it's not being able to walk, whether it's not being able to hear, whether it's a hidden disability, of which there are many. The value of that particular segment of customers, which is nearly 25% of the population of the UK, is huge. It's in the hundreds of billions, and yet brands are doing a really poor job of catering for the needs of those customers. So I'm trying to, be a force for positive change, and so I'm trying to improve what the world looks like for marginalised groups of consumers, as well as just, consumers in general terms. And one of the things, my latest project, in addition to the book, is I've created an online mini MBA in customer centricity, which I'm delivering with my education partner, which is the Oxford College of Leadership and Oxford College of Marketing. So that's going to be interesting. That's going to keep me busy for the next year or two, and we'll see hopefully plenty of people will sign up for that, and that'll help lots more businesses to become more customer-centric and deliver the levels of service that our consumers are looking for.
Two websites to remember here, customerserviceaction.com and thecustomerfirstgroup.com. The book is called The Power of Customer Experience. And if there's nothing else that you take from this conversation, talk to the person, not the chair, and don't prejudge. You'd agree?
I would agree, absolutely.
Martin, thank you so much indeed for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on. Cheers.